Oh my. From our studios this week in Los Angeles and Tampa, this is Green Tagged Theme Park in 30. I'm Philip, and I'm joined, as always, by my delightful co-host, Scott Swenson of Scott Swenson Create Development. On Green Tag, we look at the top news each week. We pick the stories we think are the most important for theme park professionals, and we talk about them. We try and open a dialogue and ask questions. But you know what? This week, I just couldn't resist talking about how Six Flags St. Louis, they tried to open, and then it didn't quite work.
But in fairness, it's not quite Six Flags. It's Six Flags in name only. I think that's, or currently in name only. I think that's important to say. Because I don't want the Six Flags, Green Tag Six Flags in 30. I just really don't.
Right now, it's owned by Enchanted Parks, and it's still not a great opening season. But it is interesting because I feel like their response has been pretty swift, and maybe you could argue that in the response, it differs from Six Flags writ large, right? So maybe, right? So I'm going to read here from the police report that said the first day of the season, Six Flags.
I love the fact that we're doing a story where we're quoting, where we start with, Let's look at the police report. Now, for those of you who don't know what happened or what went on, that all of a sudden should prick up your ears right away and be like, wait a minute, police report? What the hell?
That's right. Basically, the TLDR version is they had to close early on their first day due to a fight. And the Eureka police chief, Michael, told First Alert 4 that there are as many as 100 juveniles involved in multiple fights at Six Flags on Saturday night, which was their opening day. The chief said that the officers responded quickly and dispersed the crowd. Park officials decided to close Six Flags early to de-escalate the situation, police said on Saturday. The chief also added that about half a dozen juveniles were detained, but there were no injuries or damage done to the park. Then, following that, Six Flags made a statement. The statement says, quote, "We were made aware that a large group of teens arranged to meet at the park Saturday as part of a growing takeover trend. A small number of teens within the group were involved in an altercation with each other outside the park at closing time. Our officers on property who were already monitoring the group responded immediately, requesting assistance from Eureka PD and other agencies, and were able to get the situation under control fairly quickly. While this is not normal occurrence for the park, it is disruptive, and Six Flags St. Louis has zero tolerance for such behavior." Then they talked about how they were going to bring back their chaperone policy effective yesterday, Saturday, May 2nd. And I looked up the chaperone policy. It's now a dedicated page on their website. The things that are most interesting is, to me, this is like probably the most strict that we've seen in some ways. So it says guests age 16 years old or younger. So it sets it at 16. So 16 and younger must be accompanied by a chaperone who is at least 21 to be admitted to or remain in the park. The policy will be in effect daily during all operating hours. The chaperone must present a valid government-issued photo identification with date of birth at ticket entry. One chaperone may accompany no more than six guests age 16 or younger per day. Guests age 16 years old or younger who are found inside the park unaccompanied by a chaperone will be subject to ejection. In addition, chaperone must accompany their party during entry, remain in the park, and be available by phone and in person for the duration of their stay. Guests 17 of age or older should be prepared to present a valid government-issued photo identification with date of birth at park entry to verify their age. If unable to verify proof of age, the guest may be denied entry into the park. The chaperone requirement applies to all Six Flags St. Louis ticket and season pass holders. Wow.
Well, I want to take a hot step back for just a second. It says in the statement, in the Six Flags statement, which made me laugh, it says where was it? The altercation happened at closing time. Well, that's because they closed early. It's like it happened at closing time because once the altercation started, we decided it's closing. It's closing time.
Closing time.
Yeah, exactly. So I gotta say, there's a part of me. Oh God, this is gonna make me sound so old. But there's a part of me that is just. I find the need for this policy absolutely catastrophic.
Yeah,
I think this is clearly the first step to the end of a family theme park. I mean, if this is what's going to happen and this is what is required, because I can remember, how are they going to handle school trips? It means they're going to have to have
1 per 6. Yeah.
1 per
Ooh,
6.
wow.
It means they're going to have so damn many chaperones. It's just it's mind-boggling, because I can remember Six Flags Great America. That was my park growing up. That was my home park growing up in Gurnee, Illinois, and it's a Six Flags park. And we never even thought about fight. I mean, we were there to have a good time. We were there to have fun. We weren't there to beat the crap out of each other. So I know this makes me sound like, back in my day, but the truth is, it's just sad, because this is going to discourage families. This is going to it's going to make school trips darn near impossible, because if you have to have 1 for every 6, there's a cost involved in that as well. The schools or whatever the organization is are going to have to be able to pony up the extra admission costs, unless Six Flags has something going on with their group sales department, which we don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's just, I just don't get it. Do you know how early they closed? Do we know how early? Because it just says early closure. I don't know what that means, but it's because it's one of those situations where they clearly were trying to de-escalate, using their words, trying to de-escalate the situation. But if the only way to de-escalate the situation is to close,
Yeah.
then the situation is pretty grave.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. So I didn't look too much into it. I probably should have. Well, kind of. I mean, it's just a lot of those particulars we're not sure about. Like, they said it was outside, right? So if it was outside, to your point, what's really the impetus of closing? If it's outside, it's just what? Then you're just sending more people out into the mix, right? You're closing.
Exactly. You're taking the families who are there to enjoy it with their young children and putting them in the middle of the crossfire. So
and it didn't specify if the people who were involved were ticket holders or came from the park. That's the other thing too, right? Because it's that's not a guarantee, right? It could have been a takeover of the parking lot, right? And then they're just showing up. It's not necessarily like a ticket policy is going to do anything in that case. We don't know any of that. I'm sorry. I'm sure that our wonderful commenters on YouTube probably know. And if you do have those details, please put them in. The one thing I was going to say about that, Scott, is last time we talked about chaperone policy, a lot of people in our YouTube comments talked about how they were in favor of it. And actually, I don't think any of the comments that we got a lot of comments on the chaperone policy, and none of them were negative. All of them support it. And the reason is because they said it does make the park a lot better. It just makes it much easier. So their point is having any policy is a step in the right direction. Right. It's helping, and it makes them feel better at the parks, and it's helping to curb all of this. And I think, though, that this is the most extreme that we've seen. So, yeah.
Well. And let me just clarify. I'm not against the chaperone policy. I see the need for it. It's very clear. I just find it very sad that we have a need for it, because I think back to, Six Flags Great America when I was in high school. One of my friends who had a driver's license would be able to drive us there. Somebody's older brother or sister would drive us there. We'd all hang out for the day. We'd get in the car and we'd come home, sunburnt and broke and, dehydrated, but we had a great time. And just the fact that can't happen officially with this chaperone policy is very sad to me. It is very sad to me. It kind of makes me, again, I know this makes me sound like a crotchety old man, but it makes me sound like, dang, what the hell is happening? Why can't kids just go and have a good time? And, we talked about this in one of our other shows where we were like, why can't parks come up with things that keep people occupied enough so that that this doesn't happen?
Reduce boredom. Yeah,
reduce the boredom.
I think that was a bonus show that we talked about. But basically the idea that we were positing on that bonus show is, why is this happening? Is there an upstream way to correct this? And something that we came to on one of the bonus shows was rethinking about the entire thing and saying, Well, if you're too busy having fun, you're not going to be bored enough to cause problems.
Right.
And so the goal should actually be to make people less bored at the parks. And then that trickles down into, well, a lot of these classic just amusement parks, whatever you want to call them, like Six Flags parks, are kind of boring because you're waiting in line, you're standing. There's a lot of standing and waiting without any stimulation.
You know, and I'm going to throw this out there, and I know people are going to get pissed about me saying this, but I would go so far as to say the whole reason, not the whole, but the vast majority of reason that people get into fights is so they can get content. So they can
we talked about that too, yeah.
So they can shoot it, put it up on social media somehow, and all of a sudden be the one who broke the story of the big fight, or we're part of the big fight, or we're, you know, and so maybe the chaperone policy, maybe it's like going to a Madonna concert. You got to put your phone in a bag and you pick it up on the way out. Now I realize that creates all kinds of other problems, communication problems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't know what the answer is, because I'm always about trying to find solutions, and I don't. As much as I appreciate this, the attempt with the stricter chaperone policy, I'm not sure that that's. I know it makes people feel safer, but I'm not sure whether it really is going to work. You know, it's a great policy if there's a way to appropriately instigate it, and maybe just the threat may, you know, reduce the kind of violence or threat that's going on. But it's, I actually think it's just another nail in the coffin for the theme park industry as a whole.
To note a few thoughts I have. It's only this one property, and maybe Enchanted Parks will roll out to their other properties depending on how that goes. But for now, it's just this one property that is this strict. And I think it is rapidly evolving, right? Every week we hear about new chaperone policies, and they're all different, and it's all crazy. I think that's what's interesting to me is it makes one layer harder for you to figure out if you're going to go to a thing, right? It used to be back in the day, even back in my day, you're like, you just drive to Disneyland and it was fine. And now you need an app and you need a reservation system and everything needs to be planned out. I think now you're going to have to take the extra step of saying, well, if I have a family, can I even go? Can I take them with me? Or are we going to have to stay with the kids the entire day, even as a family? Even if you're there with your parents, you can't go off on your own, right? Like you gotta stick with them, or so there's a lot I think it adds that extra stress level. But the other thing, Scott, I was thinking is it's sort of like, in business when they say you can choose your customer. And I think that here they are kind of making a line in the sand a little bit by being like, these are not our customers. Our customers are families. They're not like these groups, these solo groups, maybe even not field trips, that our customer is a different customer. And it isn't to say there isn't places like, I think there are still parks. I mean, you can go to parks, you can go to the malls, I think. I'm not a teen, so I don't really know, but like my gym is full of teens, roving bands of teens, which I try and avoid as much as I possibly can because they're usually filming random stuff. So I just sort of move out of their way. But I mean, I think that it might also be they're just going to move to other spaces, and that the attractions are like trying to set up that thing where we don't really want them as customers, which to your point is sad in a way, but also it's not like there's no places for them to go.
Yeah, it's so I just did a quick AI search, and it says that the majority of Six Flags parks have a
they do
policy of some sort.
None are this strict. So my colleague at Attractions Magazine, who wrote about this story, also did a nice chart that compares the different Six Flags policies. But this one is the most strict with the 6 per. We should also note this week that Icon Park added a chaperone policy for minors after a teen incident at their park. Right, so Icon Park introduced a new chaperone policy for guests 17 and younger, following a recent large gathering of teens at the Orlando Entertainment District. According to the official rules for Icon Park, minors may be required to be accompanied by a parent, guardian, or chaperone 21 years or older in order to enter or remain on the property. So in a way, a little bit less strict, but it seems like this, writ large, this one from Six Flags St. Louis which is now owned by Enchanted Parks, is the strictest, and it also has the most like step-by-step resources and a dedicated page on the website, right? It's like transparent, it's up in the center for everyone, and it is pretty step-by-step. You know, you need IDs. Even if you're 17, bring your ID. Only 6 people, you have to stay with them all the time. You have to be able to reach by phone. You're going to be stopped. I mean, it's really, really, the other chaperone policies are usually like hidden in ticket disclaimers or here or there or whatever. And they're kind of vague, like this Icon Park one. Like they may be required to be a company. Okay, well.
They're a CYA. You know, they're a CYA policy, but you're right. St. Louis is very straightforward. Very straightforward.
Yeah. And that's new. Like we said, it was just updated yesterday.
And here's the thing. If you're going to have this kind of chaperone problem or the chaperone policy to curb a problem of early teens fighting, and yet your target market for all of your advertising is the teen audience, that's sort of like saying, come to our park, but don't come to our park.
Well, that's what I was alluding to in my comments, right? About how this could signal a shift writ large in the way that we think about who our customers are as attractions.
Yeah.
And that's sad or not. I don't know. It depends. I mean, you've done this with Vault of Souls. That's not for teens.
Nope. In fact, originally you could only come if you were 21 and above.
Right. And so you see my point, but everything in your brand was geared towards that from the beginning.
Precisely.
And I think that's more the struggle here is like, it's just like they've been saying for years. Remember the previous CEO or whatever, when he kind of referred to them as was it? I don't know. Everything's confused my mind. I don't remember who it was, but there was a brand recently that was saying how they were trying to change their customer base because they were kind of like undesirable customers, kind of a thing. And it's just that is the type of thing that you need to. It's much more, I think, than just changing your chaperone policy, which is kind of what you're saying.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm saying.
You got to like live and breathe it from a North Star perspective.
What products are you creating, and who are you marketing to? And if you're doing nothing but high-end thrill rides that get the adrenaline going and get everybody hyped up and everybody pumped up, and then you're wondering why people are fighting,
and you're making them bored because there's nothing to do and the lines are uncovered.
You get them really hyped up, and then you make them stand and wait in a line, and then you get them really hyped up again, and then you make them stand and wait.
And some people in our comment section also brought up the illogic in that a lot of these places then will have workers that are in this age or younger that are like running the rides so that they need a chaperone. I mean, so people brought that up in our comments, and that's a good point. It's to your point about.
So their supervisors become their chaperones? Is that the way that works?
It's a little weird, yes. They can't
come to their own park without a chaperone? That's interesting. Well, I will say that all of this is scary, but now let's turn to something that's not so scary, because Philip has done a great deal of research on Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween, and it's starting yesterday? When is this event starting now?
Tickets go on sale next week apparently. But apparently May 12th, I believe.
Eventually it'll be just a scary Easter bunny that kicks it all off. And
no, that was Horror Unleashed. That was last month.
Right.
Actually, actually that was last month. But so I think that the thing about this is, this week, of course, I'm sure everyone listening has already heard about this, that Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party sets their earliest event start ever. They're going to be starting August 7th, 2026, and running for 38 nights throughout the Halloween season. So basically it makes it a little bit more than 3 months because the decor is going to be up earlier. So you're going to have it Halloween decorated for August, September, and October. And then, I think they usually cut off right immediately that night and then kind of try and switch over to Christmas. But that's still about 3 full months, of Halloween time. The only things that stuck out to me on this is just that they didn't change anything except the little dance party that is in Tomorrowland, which is like, they just changed the theme of the dance party. There's always a dance party there. So prices stayed the same this year, but last year they were more expensive. And this is the earliest date, but the date has been fluctuating over the years, right? Like in 2018, it was August 17th. But there was a date. So 2025, it actually was late. It was like early, and then later in 2025, and now it's back to early. So,
but in looking at these fluctuations, this can very easily be calendar driven.
It's calendar,
as to where these dates fall, and
yep.
Here's the thing: it's making money, so obviously the financial people are going, well, how let's just keep expanding it, let's keep printing that cash, and you talk about them not changing anything with a not so scary Halloween event. Then it does the exact same thing that Disney has always done, which is play on tradition, and it becomes that tradition. And when they try to change it, when they try to change something some year, there's going to be huge pushback. It always boggles my mind. It's like, we want something new. Don't take that away. And that's especially true with Disney. Disney is built on traditional experiences. So yeah, this just kind of makes sense to me, really. And the not changing price between last year and this year, again, when you go, they're going 8 days earlier. When you do that, if there is any concern, all of this is driven by finance. It's all driven by what can we make, what is our anticipated, how much do we want to make on this, how much have we spent, and with our operating days, how can we make this event. They always want the events to grow financially. Every park wants the events to grow financially. And this way, what it sounds like to me, just kind of putting on my operational hat for a second, what it sounds like to me is they didn't really want to invest a whole lot in it this year, so they didn't have to raise the dollars, the admission price.
That's right.
They're basically, amortizing what they've already spent, number one. Number two, if they want to grow the event, well, they've grown the event by 8 days. If they can get 8 days more admission, or then that's another way to go back to the stockholders and go, look, we made more money. So this is, to me, this is par for the course for Disney. This is just kind of what they do, or how they do it.
I agree with all that. I do had some things I want your quick takes on, but I'm just going to try and go pretty fast so we can move. But basically, this seems like too long of a seasonal run for me, because 3 months is too long, especially in Florida. It's too hot in August. I don't know this would work literally anywhere else, because they're not changing anything. And I don't think other regional people or even places in California can get away with that. Even Universal in Orlando has to change their houses, at least in name and IP and, repainting and whatever. This is literally just the same event. And I'm wondering, Scott, because they paired this with their halfway to Halloween announcements, which have been happening since 2013 or 2023, since 2023. And it's been expanding their halfway to Halloween, and now they're doing like merch previews and all this. So part of me is like, is this them trying to really make sure they move the merch and try and pre-sell as much as they can? Or is this another sneaky way of kind of making a second gate because nobody wants, it's too hot in August to really celebrate Halloween. That's kind of silly. And we talked last year about how the event is sort of like, it's splitting the operating day in half, so then you can sell a second gate, but it's in theory a reduced crowd. So the tourists that are wanting to do, half a day at Animal Kingdom and then buy the second ticket and get on all the rides are, marketed to go visit it. So is this sort of just like a sneaky way of doing a second gate for a longer period of time? Or I don't know. That's a lot to throw at you, Scott, but give me your hot takes on that.
Well, I think the simple answer is yeah. If it works that way, yeah. And I look at this. So, because Philip, what you guys aren't seeing is Philip has done a great sort of listing of when they started since 2018. And the biggest delta is 10 days. So we're looking at a 2-week delta between 2018 and this year. And it has gone back and forth, which I think is calendar driven. I think they have recognized that this is a way to make money, whether it is that sneaky second gate or whether there's actually an interest in Not So Scary. But I think that the danger that we have or the thing we have to look at is we can't compare this directly to a scary Halloween event. Scary Halloween events need to change more often, because you can't scare somebody the same way twice. When they know it's coming, it's not scary. This is not a scary
Christmas, basically.
Yeah, this is more of a Christmas model. I think, and it's Disney, so they're building upon tradition. They're building upon, let's go see the specific characters that we want to see. Let's go see the villains walk around. Let's go see the characters in their Halloween costumes, and families love that for generation after generation after generation, and so it's that the lack of change. Seems again sort of par for the course for this. The expansion, yes. Technically, it is the longest. However, in 2024, they opened on August 9th, which again is, I think, a calendar fluctuation. And is it is it something that is a sneaky way of getting a second gate? Absolutely, duh. And I think it's also a way to fight the park hopper passes. So that they can actually get a second gate by the time you you'd normally go to hop. It's time for the second gate to start. So I think there's that. I also think that starting earlier and earlier, and my feeling is it's because Pirates and Princesses didn't work.
Yep. That's what I was thinking. I was actually thinking that if you think about it in that lens, if you think about it in these two lenses, where they're looking for a second gate so they can double monetize, especially during the summer, because families just get too tired because it's too hot. And so if you get a second gate, then you can double monetize by just adding like 2 operational hours or something. So it's actually genius from that sense. And then from the other end, they have always needed something after that summer rush. So like the August, like late July, August, when summer's over, they've always needed something to bring people in. So I'm sort of like, isn't this sort of just lazy where instead of inventing a whole new event for 1 month, they're like, let's just extend that Halloween thing.
Well, so going back in our Wayback Machine, when the first time I went to Magic Kingdom in Florida, the parks were open until midnight or 1. That was just standard operating procedure.
Yes.
So now they've taken that operational day and broken it into 2 admissions.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good money.
Right. That's right.
That's good money.
That's the biggest thing I notice. Basically, on a macro trend, that's the biggest thing I notice is that they're taking it and splitting it in 2. And watch, they're going to do the same thing with Christmas. So then you're going to get basically 6 months, half of the year, where the calendar almost every day at Magic Kingdom is split into 2. And if at Jollywood Nights, right, they're expanding it to Jollywood, so activating multiple parks. So if they could take all of their capacity and just double it by just splitting their operating day in 2. And then if they could add,
And I would think, I honestly believe that if Halloween didn't generate so much revenue, that Christmas would start earlier. Because part of the reason that they can't start Christmas any earlier is because Halloween, which is a major cash cow, Halloween is there. I mean, you're not going to move October 31st. And they can't overlap the 2 because that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, they can try Nightmare Before Christmas, that you can try.
Yes, they do it because Jack is part of both things, like the Jack puppet, right? The Jack puppet is
that's just
the same Jack puppet. Yeah, the same Jack puppet leads the fireworks from Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, and is also there in the Nightmare Before Christmas sing along that they do at Jollywood Nights.
Yeah.
Which only a crazy Halloween nerd like myself would know. But anyway, on your profitability, we're almost done. So like 2 things to finish us off here is that I didn't realize this. I had missed this data, but last year Merlin gave an interview to The Independent, and they disclosed that roughly a fifth of its annual profit comes from October, from the Halloween events at its various properties. And that is I couldn't believe they said that to The Independent, and I didn't call The Independent and be like, "Where'd you get? Was this a real interview or whatever?" So it's possible that it's not, But sorry, guys, I only have so much time to fact check in this show.
It doesn't surprise me. But it doesn't
surprise me either. And the other thing to note is that, just for perspective, the ticket prices have almost doubled since 2018, and that's, I believe, outpacing inflation. So just because this last year they didn't increase prices doesn't mean that overall the trend hasn't been going up.
Well, but I think, yes, the trend has been going up. But again, this year they decided we don't really want to add anything new. We have to, We have
Right.
to show growth. So instead of raising our ticket prices, we will just extend by from the 50. We'll extend by 8 nights, and it's just it's a numbers game. It is a numbers game. And quite honestly, they wouldn't be, creeping. I wouldn't say this is a rapid expansion. I don't think it is. I think it's kind of creeping based on calendar, but I think it's also creeping based on how do we want to earn our money? Do we want to earn our money by clicks of the turnstile, or do we want to earn our money by adding more to the gate price? Do we want to start leaning heavily into our merchandise so that we can get that sold and make sure that we're not sitting on any merchandise, because any merchandise that sits in our warehouse is not generating revenue for us? So there's a lot of different reasons for that. So anyway, we don't want to sit on any facts. However, we are going to, because it's the end of this show, but we are going to be talking about, I had the chance last night to actually attend the TEA Thea Awards Gala, and in Unhinged, we're going to talk a little bit about that and a little bit about TEA Inspire. And so if you're not...
Sloth World.
And we'll see if we get to Sloth World or not. I don't know. That's such a joke. Not a joke. It's a very serious situation that needs to be dealt with. But that's a whole other story. You had to mention that. Now I'm getting up on my little.
The only time I cried this week was from reading the updates of the Sloth World on the Central Florida website.
For those of you who are on the regular show and are not listening to Unhinged, which by the way you probably should be if you're enjoying this, but I will just say, if you are an animal experience and you are not professional, trained, qualified animal people, do not do it. It's criminal. And we're seeing exactly how criminal based on Sloth World. Anyway, that's just me being really pissed. Anyway, on behalf of Philip Hernandez with Gantom Lighting and Control, and myself, Scott Swenson with Scott Swenson Creative Development, this is Green Tag Theme Park in 30, and we will see you next week.